Welcome everyone to the quarterly Saw Cadre Sync for March 2019. Been a long, cold winter, and it's time to get back out there and start firing up some chainsaws. For some clarifications, these are things that have come up in the last 3 months that I answered the question. I need to let everybody know the answer. So, uh, some people thought that somebody turn on their or mute their mic, please. Someone thought that the spotter didn't need to be TR qualified. Sawyer, that is incorrect. Saw teams, 2 people, both TR qualified Sawyers at any level. That means Sawyer level 1 or above. Okay. RCI candidates with action plans do not count in the 6 students to 1 instructor ratio. This is going to be a dead issue here pretty soon because in the classes this year, the training shop is not doing action plans. So people are either going to pass or they're going to fail. But for the people that currently have open action plans, they don't count for the instructor ratio. Some questions about this. Somebody say something?
Yeah, I have a question. So does that mean if the action plan includes teaching 2 classes before they're fully qualified?
It means that they don't count in the 6-to-1 instructor to student ratio. So if you had 8 students, you'd have to have 2 instructors plus the 1 under instruction. Okay. But like I said, that's phasing out pretty quickly. I've got to check and see how many people we still have in that situation. This last class, we had one this past weekend. 20 students started the class, 17 passed, no work plans, no action plans. So it'll work, but it makes for some really long days because we had to put some stuff into the class that we hadn't been teaching, like felling trees and stuff. All right, daily maintenance. Some RCIs have been saying you don't need to clean the saws or you don't need to sharpen the saws. That's incorrect. There is now a checklist. Should be in every box. We'll go through it later. We talked about it last quarterly sync. There is a checklist of what is required for daily, weekly demob maintenance. It should be eventually it will be in each saw box. And it certainly includes sharpening and cleaning. It doesn't have to be cleaned to demob standard. Demob, we take rags and we wipe it out and everything else. It's probably enough to brush it out. You have to take a look at that yourself. It's probably enough to brush out the sawdust and just clean it up inside and out. And we should be sharpening the saws all the time, several times during the day. Last one is some RCIs had individuals that they thought would be unsafe with a saw, yet they felt they had to pass them from the course because they passed the written exam and completed the workbook. That's not accurate. If there is somebody that is going to pose a danger to themselves or others, even if they pass the test, it'd be best if you called me, let me know that you had the problem, but don't pass them. And there's an SOP, and it's in box under chainsaw instructor box. SOP number 2 says don't pass those people. Questions about any of that? All right.
Yes, Kurt. So if I'm instructing someone and I feel that they're not going to be safe, why would I even allow them to take the test?
Good question. Good question. Maybe you shouldn't let them take the test.
I mean,
I'd let them, but that's up to you.
I mean, if I'm not going to pass them because they're dangerous, I probably wouldn't. I would let them know that before I handed them an exam. But I guess that's
That
just me.
that's a really good point. We'll put that on for consideration next sync.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Rob. That's a good idea. Boots. There's been questions about boots. Saw one says they recommended sturdy pair of boots with steel or protected toe, reinforced shank, and an 8-inch high. That's recommended. Also, remember the chaps need to extend 2 inches past the top of the boot. For Sawyer 2, it requires an 8-inch lace-up boots, recommended steel or protected toe. Why is it different? Because we expect a higher degree of professionalism from the Saw 2s than we do from Saw 1s. Makes sense to me. Tree diameter. We've had some incidences where someone has felled a tree outside of their scope and they said, well, I didn't have a way to measure it. I can't be out there measuring it. You guys are professionals. RCI 1s, Saw 2s are professionals. So arm yourself before you go out there with a piece of cord cut to the appropriate length or a tape measure to measure the circumference of the tree, or use an 18-inch guy bar as a reference. That's what I do. I have the spotter go out in front of the tree. I hold the saw up to the tree, and he tells me if it's going to cut all the way across. That way I know when I go into the tree that I don't have to double cut. It's not a surprise. Questions about that? All right. All right, the scope of practice talks about minimum distance from obstructions, the tree height plus 10%, 110% of the tree height, but it doesn't address distance of people. Obstructions are houses, sheds, fences, anything where there could be a financial loss that TR has to cover. Okay? People are more fragile and more valuable than those things. So until further notice, we're going to put this into the next revision of the scope of practice, but until further notice, allow a minimum of 1.5 times the tree height between the tree and any bystanders. That includes people in a house. It doesn't include the cut team. Obviously, the feller is going to be there at the tree. The spotter can be a safe distance away along a safe route. But let's not cut anything with people closer. Why? Because when the tree comes down, branches could come off, gets thrown out another tree length. So that's why we said 1.5. There's a new national standard coming out for a saw box layout, really detailed. It's kind of a combination between Region 4 and Region 6's layouts. So it's no one region's taking over the world. It's really detailed. It's really clear. And we should love it. We as the RCIs should love this. Because when you pull a box, you're going to know, just from the outside of the box, what's in the box, no matter what region you're in or what region you're coming from. And when you go to refill the box, you're going to know what goes into the box because it's just like any other box. We should think this is wonderful, I think. So look forward to that. Any questions on any of that stuff?
Kurt, I have 2 questions. This is Dave. So on the first one of the bystanders, is that from the initial face cut or is that when you're going to the back cut?
I'd say from the face cut. Let's
Okay,
keep people away from here.
It came up on our last stop, so I just want to confirm that. And then the new national standard for the saw box layout. Are you going to talk about that later?
I don't have it yet, so it'll be in next quarterly sync. Let me write that down.
Okay, thank you.
All right, just give me a second. I'll write that down. Box. Yeah. Or I suppose I could have watched it. Okay. Trends. We're seeing during inventories, there's a lot of chaps that have been cut with chainsaws. There's a lot of them that have been damaged from penetration with a stick or something like that, but you can tell the chainsaw cut, and it looks a lot different than a puncture. Um, Please remind your saw teams to report all mishaps. We need to know about them so we can develop the trends and try to prevent any escalation, because the way accidents happen, they start little things and they build up, and then it gets to be bigger and bigger and bigger. So if we can stop it at this stage where our last line of defense is getting abraded, maybe we can stop something from worse from happening. We don't punish people because they have a chainsaw strike, but we do need to know what happened. If you are doing your inventories and you find chaps that have been struck, take them out of service. Cut the belt. There is an SOP on that too. Cut the belt so they don't get used again. But we need to do an incident report that just says, I was doing inventory, I found these to be damaged. Significantly to be taken out of service. Logs needs that so that they can buy replacements and charge them off properly. And we're talking about, when the fibers are disturbed. We're not talking about a burn on a pocket, which means they weren't holding it in the right hand. We're talking about something that is going to make those chaps unserviceable. Next quarter, yeah.
Along this topic, because it has been something you've brought up for the last at least 3 meetings, as we grow, are we going to get to a point where people may be asked to check things out and check things in so that we know who it happened to and when?
I hope we could be more professional than that, but it may happen.
I hear you, but we're getting big.
Yeah, we're getting big. Some RCIs are doing that already.
Okay.
Okay. Something to keep in mind. I'll write that one down too, though. That is something to think about. Thanks, Aaron. Next quarter, we'll talk about repairs you can do. If it's a burn, we can repair it if it's less than the size of a quarter. For now, contact me and I'll send you, or actually, I think in the email we send out with for this meeting, the synopsis, I think we'll include a link to a document on how to repair them. But if there's any questions, call me and we'll walk through it together. Any other questions? Thanks for that, Aaron. When you find defective items that are non-serviceable, we can't repair them, and you're out in the field, throw them away. Cal has authorized the RCIs to make the decision that we can't fix this. So throw it away. If they're damaged but they can be repaired, tag them so that when they get to the knock can understands what's wrong with it. Makes sense to me, right? So this is what happens. On the left, all those bars showed up at the knock. I think they were in a single box. What's wrong with them? I can't tell. There's not that much that can go wrong with a bar that can be repaired. So they probably should have been just excess, thrown away, and have logs replace them. On the right, box of chains. You see a couple with blue tape. Sometimes the blue tape at least tells them what size they are. But But they have to go through those one by one and try to figure out if something is wrong with them, and if so, if can we repair it. A lot of times, what we're seeing is that the loggies have been buying full chisel chain, and we all know that full chisel takes a lot of sharpening to get that point on the tip of the cutter. And I think a lot of our Sawyer ones haven't had enough training and sharpening to get to that level. So rather than work with a dull chain, they throw it in a box and they pull out a new one. We need to, so I ask you, when you're doing your training, stress sharpening the chain. And when I came out of the saw one class, I was horrid at sharpening the chain. Someone gave me a pair of cheater glass safety glasses, and I could actually see that it was what it was doing. And then I understood how to sharpen the chain. Try to spend some time with them. Try to give them as much time as we can sharpening. But when they go back to the knock, put a tape on it. Tell them what size it is. Tell them what's wrong with it. That kind of stuff. In this particular box, they had chains that don't fit any of our saws, and they were really at a loss what to do with them. So a lot of them just got thrown away, and it was a waste of funds. And then we have chaps like that. Clearly, that was a chainsaw strike. It was hidden in a box somewhere. The fibers, can't see it from here, but the fibers were disturbed. Had to get thrown away. I said already, if you're finding things that are broken, past repair, get rid of them. If you need to do an instant report, like for chaps, do the instant report. Questions about that?
I have a question about the picture.
Which one? This one or the other one?
The one that the page you're on now. Look at the guy's thumb on the saw.
Oh, yeah. Well, welcome to the brief. We've seen that one before.
That was Kurt. How dare you bring that up?
Hey,
Yeah, it was Kurt
Kurt.
with a K. Kurt with a K. Okay.
That happens.
Pathway to
That happens
saw.
to be a still manufactured picture.
I think it is actually. Pathway to Saw 2. Task books of this year are optional. Beginning in 2010, they're going to need to complete the task book to be able to get to a class. They need to complete the workbook, task book to get to the class. But they are reviewed this year. We have to figure out how to review them this year. But later on in the year, they'll probably get reviewed. So territories and regions should conduct pre-sawtooth cut days. This is a non-pressure, you have time to teach type day, where you take a few of your best sawyers and teach them how to properly fell a tree according to TR standards. Okay, so you need an RCI 2 or a saw 2 to do that. We'd like to see 3 a year in 3 different areas of the region. So a total of about 9, so that people can drive to them and they don't have to fly to them. Okay, so that's a goal for this year. Next year it may be a stronger goal. And once you have those people trained up that much, we do a cut camp. We've got to be ready to move up. Cut camps are either national or territorial regions. If you do it with national, it comes with a fob in a box, berthing and a tent, kitchen, bathroom. So it's not a large logistics reach for the region. It is for national. If it's a territorial class, opposite. It's more work for the territory, and national just sends some instructors. It starts with a 2-day open cut where we assess the people's skills. I think we did 4 people to an instructor when we did the first one. It gives them time to get any rust out of their presentation, and it gives us time to, in a non-pressured way, to show them how to do it properly. You take the people that have the best chance of passing the course and move them up to the Sawtooth class, the 3-day Sawtooth class. The others practice for an additional 3 days. So in the end, they're all going to be very, very good Sawyer 1s. And the ones that go through the Sawtooth class, hopefully, will be Sawtooth. Questions about that? All right. So we'll do some stump analysis. I didn't have any incident reports this quarter. Stump on the right. Let's look at the left first. Stump on the left. You see the back cut and face cut are both level to each other, parallel to each other. Separated by about 2 inches. The hinge on this is about 10% of the tree diameter. Very nice cut for TR standards. And what that does is it allows us to keep control of that tree until it's well committed to its fall. On the right, you see a stump that looks like the offside has blown the holding wood. The onside has minuscule amount of holding wood. This is a fine arborist cut. It also has a really high shot on it too. This I understand is a good arborist cut. When you're doing an arborist cut, someone explained to me that you're basically bucking a tree vertically. So you got ropes on it. You want to get that thing broken away and onto the ropes as quick as possible and get it away from you so it doesn't hit the tree, doesn't knock you out of the tree. What it doesn't do with what happens if you don't have ropes is you lose control of the tree. Okay? Not a bad cut, not the right cut for what we do. All right, one on the left, same thing. Very little holding wood. The offside's blown completely. One on the right, you see a lot of pull out of the fibers. Nice and flat. Really nice TR stump. One on the left, again, offside overshot, onside very little holding wood. One on the right, you can tell that was a double cut. So I hope that was a Sawtooth doing it, or I hope that was an RCI2 doing it, because they had to double cut that tree. But look how consistent that holding wood, that hinge is, right? He used a lot of wedges, surprising with that holding wood, but had to use a lot of wedges, but darn nice looking cut, huh? Okay, so for TR, what we're looking for is that undercut or face cut. It goes in 1/4 to 1/3 diameter tree. The joining cut opens it up at about a 45-degree angle so that tree is now 45 degrees down and well committed to its fell before it breaks off. We want the back cut and the face cut to be in the same plane, just elevated up 2 to 4 inches, and that's the shot. And we want that hinge to be 10% generally. And these are all rules of thumb, or generalizations, but we want that hinge to be 10%. If you have one that's the top's broken out and there's no weight, you might need to reduce that some more. General rule of thumb. Okay? All right, last quarter we talked about the scope of practice supplements. We're going to talk about them again. VMO maintenance checklists. I gave you the where they are in box. And the Sawyer level and scope of practice, where that is in box 2. And this presentation will be is being recorded. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's being recorded, and you'll get an email making it available to you later. Any questions on that? They're going to be in the job boxes. Someone suggested that when they take the saw out, they ought to take the levels and scope of practice out with them in the field. And I would say when they're doing the maintenance, it'd be nice to put one of those grease pencils to check off on the checklist. All right, event closeout. And Jack, I know how to do it this time. I'm going to go here. No, here. So Mike Pearl from the computer guys are going to come and he's going to tell us how to do it today.
I'm not seeing anything on the video. Is anybody else?
No, it's not showing it. Hold on a second. That's what I get for being fancy. I guess I have to stop sharing.
There we go.
How about that?
Yep, we can see that.
All right. Can you hear it?
Doesn't look like it's playing yet.
It is. Turn the volume up on your computer.
It's not him.
Yeah, it's not showing the video.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing the start screen for the YouTube page.
All right.
That's okay.
Well,
We can include these links in the follow-up email.
yeah. Sorry. That's probably my internet's not able to keep up with it. Let's go back to PowerPoint. So there are 2 videos there. Mike will show you how to close out an event and how to do vetting for the event. Although that may be changing, right, Jack?
For train the trainers, it'll be more involved, but checking prerequisites for Sawyer 1 should be pretty basic, and it'll be included in the video that's there.
Okay, thanks. So task books for Pathway to SAW 2 and RCI. We talked about them a little bit today. We talked about last time. They're not required this year, but highly recommend it. Will be required next year. And I gave you the pathway to the pathway, or the bread trail, or whatever it is. But I gave you where it is in box. And then we may change where they get put, where we put the completed books. So more on that later. Wrap up. Safety is our #1 priority. We need to make sure the gray shirts come home, or there won't be any TR. So when you're making a decision of do I press on and do something that is beyond my skill or my scope to help this one person, remember that there may be thousands that you can't help because something went wrong. Just consider that. We don't have any compromises with safety or standard practice or the curriculum. Ideas for Next quarterly sync, anybody? So far I have repair chaps, HE safety vests for Sawyers, and sawbox layout. Safety vest came up in the other group. They're kind of too bulky, too lightweight to use when we're working a saw because no, we can't have strings or anything else that the saw can catch on. So what they worked out was that when they're going from job site to job site, they wear the vests. The swampers are wearing vests. But the two people on that team that are actually working the saw are not while they're working the saw. I'll get with Vic, and he and I will make sure that that works for both of us. Anything else for next quarterly sync?
I've been thinking about something. After a few times in Amberjack, we had a special logs person in the saw tent. Maybe we could give them some type of a training or ask that someone in logs attend something like this so they understand more nomenclature of our parts and how to interact with the sawyers maybe and as far as their needs.
Okay.
Sometimes
That's a
they
good
just
idea.
they just grab a general gray shirt and say, your logs, and then like happened in Amberjack, they said, well, just go handle the saw tent. And if they don't have any saw experience, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm writing it down. Logs doesn't understand us. Would help to provide some training more on materials than operation.
Yeah.
Right?
So Kurt, yeah,
Right.
well, along with that, one of the boxes that I came across on the last stop I was on is, well, there's different styles of chains. So if somebody is running out to Home Depot to buy chains, they may be getting the right size for the bar, but they're not looking at that color code to, determine if it's a safe chain for a Sawyer one and so on. So
Yeah. Okay. Types of chains. Okay. Alrighty. Thanks, Robert. Anything else? Okay. That's some sad news. Uh, Ashley Hudson works in the capabilities group. She's been responsible for developing a lot of our Sawyer books and what all of our documentation. She has been diagnosed with a terminal cancer. And Jack, do you have that email or that look? I can find it.
I
But
can
she
put it
has
in.
asked if. All right, we'll put it in here. Rather than send emails to her directly, she's asked that we send them to a clearinghouse. She doesn't want to get overwhelmed by them. Ashley was on the first stop. Her first stop was my first stop, and she's a wonderful, wonderful woman, and it's very disheartening to hear about this. Anything else anybody has? See, Jack, I made it through it this time. Last time I was breaking down, so.
No judgment on
Anything else?
whichever way you went, man.
Yeah.
Just so any of you guys do know, she's actually in my area, and TR is doing a whole bunch of stuff for her to do what they can. So, National is going all over the place to do what they can for her. So they're trying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I lost video and audio for about 3 minutes there, so if you covered this already, let me know. But one thing for next time might be, you already explained to me how you recruit RCI2 to support events. It might be good to lay out that process for people.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And then I have a question for
Let me
you,
get back.
back on the scope of practice. I don't think the scope of practice specifically mentions the 461s right now for
It does. It
Sawyer
does.
1. What is the rule
It does.
for Sawyer 1 or RCIs using the 461?
The scope of practice does now do that, does now address it. It says that that Sawyer 1s can use the 400 series under direct supervision of an RCI or a Sawyer 2.
Okay, and that's the current version out in box right now?
Yeah.
Okay, someone sent me an old one, so thank you very much.
Okay.
And further clarification, direct supervision means that the RCI SAW2 would be functioning as the spotter.
Yeah. Close enough that they can pull a saw out of their hands. Good questions, though. Anything else?
Kurt,
All right. Thank you.
Eric here.
Yep. Eric.
If we have to adjust fire like we did for this last one, could you send an email out with the code next time?
Sorry. Yes. Apologize. I got the code wrong.
Yeah, that's okay.
Kurt, I have a training question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
From a territory training standpoint, there's a few people who've been asking me if they could shadow the class but not necessarily take it. For example, people who teach damage assessments or other classes just to get some situational awareness. How do you feel about that?
As long as they're not running a saw, I don't have a problem with it, but let's wait until next quarterly thing to solidify that and give me a chance to talk to some people about it. But it sounds like a good idea.
Roger that.
Auditing the course. Auditing the course, right?
Yes.
All right. That's a good idea.
Hey, along the same threads, Kurt, I've had people that are Sawyer ones that have also requested just to audit the course for refresher's sake.
That would seem to be different to me. I think that I will go out on a limb and say that's fine.
Good, because that's what I've been doing.
Okay.
Hey, Kurt, are there any of those 5-day cut camps planned right now, or is that still just something out in the future? Over.
Jack, you want to take that one?
If I can figure out where my mute button is. So each territory is going to get one 5-day cut camp. I believe there's only one scheduled currently, and it is in South Central. I believe they're looking at Conroe, Texas, and I believe they're looking at May, but I'm not exactly sure on that. Trish Lucas, if you're in South Central, will have further details. If you're in another territory, stay tuned. But no, we don't have any other dates scheduled.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
So what if
Yeah,
we
probably
can't
with-
make the cut camp for our territory?
If they have a class, you can go to the class instead. That's up to the territory to have SAW2 classes.
Gotcha, thanks.
Okay, I'm thinking Region 4, I'm going to have a SAW2 class or two out here. The reason we can't schedule the meeting in Blue Jeans is we're limited to, I think, 100 invites. And we've got 130, I think, RCI ones right now.
We can send a meeting invite from inside Outlook. I just figured out how to do that, and I believe we can still blind copy folks and have the link in the meeting description. So I'll aim to do that on the next one with just a single link and reminders built into the invite. So sending a second reminder later is redundant in that situation, but it wasn't this time because we didn't set it up that way, and that is my fault. Sorry, guys.
No, appreciate that.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate all of you taking time out from your schedules to meet with us today. We'll have the next quarterly sync in June, and hopefully in the beginning of June on a Thursday. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, Kurt.
Good night.